back on the board at 130. They still have 3 fifth-rounders, even though they traded one in that trade with the Kansas City Chiefs. 161, 165, 168.
Off into a sack. Then a third down after an interception. He's got Travis Kelce on a little stick route. 3rd and 3. Just give him an accurate ball, and you get that first down, which will at least help you flip the field in a 7-0 game. Misses the throw. Like, that to me.
You look at, with all the draft stuff we're talking about, right? Yeah. You've done great. We all know that. But just the jump-off point, right, where you just accumulate, like, is it this going back to the Sam Bradford trade and accumulating picks there? Is it Carson Wentz? It just seems like there was a point in your history that just put you guys into another level with assets. Am I wrong by that? Is there anything that jumps out to you?
I don't know. I think it's all player dependent. I think it's all time dependent, you know, where you are kind of in your building. What
different times with
different formation, personnel, whatever.
You know
right.
I don't see that. Yeah. I don't see that. I don't even see that at the college level.
Yeah.
I mean,
almost 6'3", 235 pounds. In 2024, 117 tackles, 12 TFLs, 5 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. He showed ability to cover as an off-ball linebacker. He had that innate ability to rush the quarterback, either as a blitzer in between the tackles, or he can line up as an edge. I think the Eagles do like that ability there, and he can be a Swiss Army knife for Vic Fangio. This, to me, screams Vic Fangio type of selection at the linebacker spot.
You know, just throughout my whole life, really just accepting challenge, and, you know, having my support system with me, and, you know, understanding, you know, just different aspects of life and different life situations, and really how to go through it. It's a big sequence of my life, you know, and I think that was the best thing that happened to me, you know, just persevering and, you know, overcoming every adversity that came my way.
How old were you when you first thought maybe realistically you could one day play for the Eagles?
Man. You said how old?
Yeah, like really, you know, thinking about.
I think when I was at my grandparents' house, man, I gotta shout out my grandfather, man, Pop. You know, when I was younger and I seen all the card selections that he had, I was like, I know it. I could definitely play for them boys.
And then getting to the facility today, realizing that dream. What has today been like for you?
It's been good, you know, just taking it day by day and just going through the process. I mean, I'm even enjoying it right now here with you guys. So,
what was the experience like in Green Bay, and are you happy you went?
The experience was everything. I mean, you know, just the things that God does, and, you know, when you serve God in, you know, a certain way, and, you know, you pray and you make sure, you know, that you're in His guidance, and, you know, that you're receptive to His blessings. I mean, it's major, definitely.
What do you like about being an edge rusher, and what do you like about being a linebacker, and how different are they?
I like being a football player. I like being an absolute baller, a dude that can do everything, that can learn and grow, and, you know, just maximize each and every opportunity that I have to play this game.
Is being so close to home, is it more comfortable for you when you go through things like this to be?
Yeah, definitely. When I was in the plane, I was looking like, dang, I'm really back home. That's when it hit me. I was like, okay, all right.
Jihaad, I think you only had one interaction, you said last night, with the Eagles, and that was with Washburn, a brief conversation with Jeremiah Washburn. Is that the only interaction you had in the pre-draft process? Was just that one incident?
So, you know, prior to, you know, the draft and stuff like that, I had talked to Howie, and, you know, we was, you know, getting to know each other and, you know, just building that relationship. And, I mean, now look at where I am, you know, so the relationship definitely turned out well.
You come here for that?
No.
You've mentioned your grandfather a few times. What's his role in your life?
I mean, one of the biggest supporters in my life. You know, he always makes sure that he texts me, you know, and say, you know, love Pop, love my mom. You know, make sure, you know, you just keep being a good person in life. You know, just keep being a great football player.
What was your grandfather's reaction when he found out you got drafted by you?
Man, I thought he was about to faint. But he was definitely lit though, man. You know, I was super happy and excited, you know, that he got to, you know, watch that moment and that I got to cherish that moment with him. So,
how important is it for you that you're coming to a place they've had success, obviously just won a Super Bowl a couple months ago, been to 3 Super Bowls in 8 years, playoffs every year. You're coming #1 defense in the NFL last year. You're coming to a place that's pretty established, successful.
I mean, I think, it's all about my process and, part of my, my journey. I just came from Alabama. So that's literally the same, program/organization that I came from. And, another thing that I want to hit on that, Coach Sirianni was talking about too is, tough, detailed, and together. That was a big thing that stood out to me, and understanding, what that meant and how he wants this, organization to be ran. The standard, everybody just playing together, just being with each other and everybody, just connecting.
You've talked a lot about winning and Alabama. Were you disappointed at all that you didn't get that ring at Alabama, and how does that transform to coming here?
It's all a part of the process, you know what I'm saying? So I learned and I grew, from that situation. Everybody did on that team. All it did was just add more fuel to the fire for my journey, so.
I was talking to you about your health last night, and I'm just curious, throughout your career, even dating back to your early days playing football, it's something that you've dealt with, and I'm wondering how that has shaped you as a player, like, being able to go through the rehab process. People have talked about your response to those things.
Yeah.
That shaped you.
I mean, it's tough. You got a lot of critics, a lot of people, like, that don't see that process. And I'm not even just talking about myself. I'm talking about people that's, that has injuries right now, that's going through the draft process. So that's, not really on social media, posting what they're doing and stuff like that. So, I think that's critical, just to trust in yourself, believe in yourself, and always have a firm, tight, circle around you and a great foundation and support system.
A support system, I mean, to not go into despondency, I guess, in those kind of moments. But what has helped you throughout your career in that? Like, what was that?
I would say really my parents, mentors, trainers, just for helping me, the path that was in my life, guided and, mentored in a certain way, of, just attacking each and every day like it was my last. And I mean, that's what I did, and I'm still doing that, so.
As the draft was going on last night, when did you get a sense that you might end up with the Eagles? Like, how was that, going through your mind and everything?
I was just taking it one pick at a time, man. Just being patient, worth the wait, and just extremely humble, by the situation. And I'm excited. I'm really excited to be an Eagle. So.
In the past 4 years since moving down to Florida, how often were you able to make it back home, and how did you spend the Super Bowl this year?
Really, I was focused. What I'm saying? Focused and just preparing on. My craft and what I had to do, to get better each and every day. And the Super Bowl this past year, so I was in Arizona, I was training for the combine and stuff, and I was at, one of the agents, in my agency house, and I was definitely rooting for them Eagles.
Jihaad, you played some offense, I think, at IMG, right?
Yeah.
Touchdowns. Was there ever a part of you who thought, hey, maybe I can play some?
Yeah, I could do a little bit of something.
What were you, running back or?
I was running back, receiver, quarterback before, not in high school though. Yeah, I definitely played those positions on offense. I thought I was going to be an offensive player until I started getting a little aggressive. That's when I said, all right, I gotta, go to defense.
There's quite a few Alabama guys here. Yeah, I think maybe you crossed over with Eli 1 year. He went to IMG.
Tyler Steen too. And Cam Latu, he just got here. Yeah.
How important is it to you to have those sort of Alabama?
I mean, it's great, man. Just that brotherhood, that B-side five, for life. It goes a long way. You see a lot of different dudes that's in the league right now that, rep that A on their chest still and, hold that tradition and that standard, within whatever they're doing in their life. So it means a lot.
Which of your new teammates are you most looking forward to playing with?
Say it again?
Which of your new teammates are you most looking forward to playing with?
Everybody, for real. I mean, the Eagles got a great organization full of coaches, full of, front office people, executives, and, of course, the players. So I'm just gladly, appreciated to be a part of that.
How far along are you in your rehab, and do you expect to be ready for training camp?
Yeah, I'm just taking that day by day right now. Just really just in progress with that. So.
Are there any players that you really enjoy watching on film, defensive players in the league, that you kind of try to craft your game after, that or remind you of yourself?
Definitely. I like to watch a lot of different defensive players. I don't really, just watch one person. But some people that I could definitely point out is I got to definitely go with Zack Baun for sure. Him just being versatile and, his instincts and his reaction to, his awareness of the game. Like, it's definitely special. A guy like Fred Warner, he definitely has a lot of great instincts to him too. And obviously a guy like Michael Parsons, a guy that can do it all. So
we'll take 2 more questions.
On that, last night you were talking about your versatility. I mean, going back to high school, the journey going from just hand in the ground to standing up as a linebacker.
Yeah.
What was it at the beginning that made you trust in that? And obviously, that's worked out since kind of like the beginning. What was it like moving from that?
I mean, I think it was just preparation. You know what I'm saying? Like, figuring out what I want to do. Okay, bet. Now I'm gonna work my butt off to get to the best version of myself. You know what I'm saying? So that was the best thing for me. In my mindset, like everything that I did, whether I was playing on offense and I was being a receiver. Okay, well, outside of practice, now I'm gonna train on some routes and stuff like that, or some releases. Just to be the best version of myself.
At the combine, you guys a lot of these same questions, and your answer was, Mr. Do It All. That's what you said you were.
Yeah.
In your life, have you found that you've been? I guess people have tried to put you in that box, and you just view yourself as a football player.
You exactly said it right. Got it right.
When did Zack Baun get on your radar? Because he hadn't, before last year, hadn't kind of established himself in this league.
Yeah, I mean, just football evolving and, that type of guy being in the #1 defense in the nation, which is, Philadelphia Eagles. And I got a chance to, definitely watch some film and watch some tape on him and, just see how special he is.
Okay.
It's not a thing any longer. And so I like Makuba for the ball skills, for the smarts, for the desire to get better. He left Clemson because that program wasn't pushing him hard enough. So Vic Fangio is going to love him. I like the safety pairing on the back end because now you have Makuba, you have Blankenship, who make...
Hey, Andrew. For starters, what were your conversations like with the Eagles during the pre-draft process? And in general, how did you feel the process went for you?
I mean, in general, the process went pretty good. I got everything I wanted out of that process. Had some good conversations, but in general, overall, I feel like I had a pretty good process with the whole.
The Philadelphia Eagles just drafted someone special, and no, this wasn't your typical best player available pick. Comes in Andrew Makuba and Jihaad Campbell. This wasn't safe, nor was expected, but it might be the smartest move of the offseason. For years, Philly dominated the trenches. That strategy built their identity and brought them a championship, but this time, they broke the blueprint. While most champions play it safe after winning, the Eagles just made a move that flips the script. So why this player, and what does it tell us about where this team is heading? Let's find out. The Philadelphia Eagles built their identity around a clear principle control the line of scrimmage. Under general manager Howie Roseman, that foundation became a winning formula, not a preference. Since Roseman's arrival, 70% of the Eagles' first-round picks have been offensive or defensive linemen. That commitment paid off with championships, even as other teams chase passing trends or flashy skill players. Philadelphia's approach stands apart because it doesn't chase the latest tactics. It reinforces strength where games are decided. Every offseason, including after a Super Bowl win, Roseman looks to strengthen the trenches, not just maintain them. This draft was no different. While other teams scrambled for quarterbacks and highlight makers, Philadelphia found itself at a sweet spot on the board. The Eagles could take advantage of misjudged defensive talents slipping down because of positional biases. And when Emmitt Smith recently vented on his podcast, he said it best: the Eagles thrive because they know exactly who they are. Philadelphia's defensive front is still packed with veterans who know how to win big games. But in the NFL, standing still gets you caught. Every contender knows the clock never stops ticking. The Eagles entered this draft without panic or shortcuts. They moved like a team already planning ahead. Josh Sweat's departure left a real hole in their pass rush rotation. Milton Williams' exit created another gap inside, where fresh legs are critical against modern rushing attacks. Instead of chasing emergency fixes, Philadelphia chose to stick to the plan. They picked up players who could raise the ceiling, not just cover the floor. According to analysts, the Cowboys hold the brand, but the Eagles hold the blueprint and results back it up. The front office seemingly wanted to protect the foundation without losing their edge. New players are coming into a system built for immediate contribution, not slow development. Did the team just future-proof their defense before the rest of the league caught on? For decades, the Eagles followed one first-round rule: stay away from off-ball linebackers. That blueprint cracked wide open when they called Jihaad Campbell's name at pick 31. It wasn't a gamble, but an emotion. Inside their draft room, Campbell was a top 10 player. The Eagles saw a rare blend size, speed, and a destructive edge from any angle. Campbell can command the middle, crash the edge, and erase mistakes before they become headlines. Standing 6 feet 3 inches and weighing 235 pounds, he fits today's NFL: fast, physical, and disruptive. Philadelphia didn't sit back and hope. They moved up, trading with Kansas City to make sure Campbell stayed home. The coaching staff couldn't hide their excitement after the pick. Campbell fits the defensive identity like he was built for it. At Alabama, Campbell posted 117 tackles, 11.5 tackles for loss, and 5 sacks. He earned first-team All-SEC honors and second-team All-American recognition for a reason. And here's something more important than stats. Campbell played everywhere across Alabama's defense without missing a beat. When he spoke to the media, one thing stood out. He didn't care where he lined up, he just wanted to dominate. The passion in his voice matched the hunger inside the Eagles building. Both sides know exactly what is at stake this season. Will Campbell's arrival force the entire Eagles defense to evolve faster than anyone expected? One pick wasn't enough. The Eagles wanted more firepower, and they made sure they got it. In round 2, they grabbed Texas safety Andrew Makuba at pick 64, another weapon and another problem for offenses. At 5'11" and 186 pounds, Makuba brings pure chaos to the secondary. He isn't a body you hide deep. He's a hunter who attacks everything in sight. Makuba finished his last season with 5 interceptions and a reputation that quarterbacks feared. Makuba doesn't just cover space. He erases it by closing windows before quarterbacks even realized they were open. Scouts praised his vision and coaches loved his motor. But the Eagles cared about something bigger: his mindset. Makuba's attitude perfectly fits Philly's locker room like it was scripted. Makuba's backstory adds even more to the fire. Born in Zimbabwe, moved to America, and climbed through every level the hard way. When he got the call from Philadelphia, he almost jumped through the ceiling. That hunger can't be coached. Makuba clocked a 4.45 at the combine, fast enough to cover anyone, anywhere, but the Eagles didn't draft speed. They drafted a tone setter. He can blitz cover and punish mistakes. Whatever the Eagles need, Makuba's already moving before the play even finishes. Now the question is, how many different ways will Philadelphia unleash him? Philadelphia built its last championship on brutal trench dominance and relentless pressure across 4 quarters. But this draft marks something bigger, a new expansion of the Eagles' defensive identity. They are no longer dangerous only at the line of scrimmage. They are dangerous across every blade of grass. Campbell brings coverage that most linebackers dream of, but rarely achieve at this level. On the other hand, Makuba brings speed and instinct to close passing windows before quarterbacks can recognize the threat. This change was a calculated step forward to dominate future offensive styles before they evolve further. Modern offenses stretch the field horizontally and vertically to find gaps in slow defenses. Philadelphia closed those gaps before the league could expose them. Campbell can match tight ends stride for stride across the middle. Makuba can jump routes, crash run plays, and create turnovers without sacrificing coverage discipline. Together, they turn the defense from a wall into a moving force. Pressure no longer stops at the front line. It now chases quarterbacks into every pocket of the field, believe analysts. The Eagles still believe games are won in the trenches. They simply decided it was time to win everywhere else too. Philadelphia's defense is no longer built to survive explosive offenses. It is built to hunt them down and tear them apart. How many teams will realize too late that Philadelphia's defense is coming from every direction? The Eagles and Cowboys share a division, but but their paths could not look more different today. Philadelphia builds from the inside out, patient, strategic, and built to last through changing eras. Dallas prefers headlines, flashy trades, splashy signings, and promises that sound louder than they deliver. The Eagles stay quiet in the media because they stay loud where it matters on the field. They build rosters that survive injuries, weather slumps, and outlast every hype cycle that sweeps the NFL. Meanwhile, the Cowboys continue chasing stars instead of building systems that create consistent winning. It is a pattern that even Cowboys legend Emmitt Smith could not ignore. In a recent interview, Smith said it plainly: Philadelphia builds the way Dallas once did, and right now, the gap is growing wider by the season. The Eagles are evidently trying to build a dynasty that survives it. Dallas might still hold national headlines and brand power from decades ago, but power on paper does not win divisions. Depth, identity, and discipline do. Philadelphia keeps its focus on draft nights, while others celebrate headlines they have not yet earned. Every move this spring pulled the Eagles further away from the noise and closer to sustained dominance. Now, how does Dallas catch a rival who already turned patience into a permanent advantage? Campbell and Makuba are only the beginning. The Eagles are building something faster, sharper, and far more dangerous than before. But what other moves are still in motion? Subscribe and stay locked in. The next strike could change everything.